So this year, Universal decided to help themselves to a Dracula fest by releasing two films with Dracula as the main antagonist, and then two films with completely different premises. Both films with underwhelming returns at the box office. Well, before this year even began, Universal was hitting films out the park with the box office returns and great audience reviews. 2023, not so much with some films, but I saw both of these films. I even made a small review on The Last Voyage of the Demeter when it was released. These two films, how can I say this for being nice, were underwhelming to me. I know some fans were fans of both films. I know some hated Renfield, I know some hated The Last Voyage. Some thought Renfield was silly, some thought The Last Voyage was too slow. Well, here are some of my thoughts on two films, starting with the first release of these two, Renfield. When it was announced that Nicolas Cage was casted to be Count Dracula in an upcoming film by Universal, I said this can go either one way or the other. And then we learned that Renfield was going to be a horror comedy of sorts. I hope for great things. This film could have been much better if Cage had more screen time in the film, because his Dracula wasn't that bad for the mood of this film. Now, he's not on no level of Bela Lugosi, but he held his own. He was evil in a comedic sense. I think the film spent too much time on Awkwafina and her character, which I don't think no one really cared for, and I feel like that took away from Dracula. In addition, the director Chris McKay labeled this film as a quasi-sequel to Dracula's 1931. In the beginning, it inserted Nicolas Cage Dracula, Nicholas Holt's Renfield over Bela Lugosi and Dwight Frye's characters. Fun fact, this was Nicolas Cage's first film by a major studio since 2011's Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. Also, I was hoping for big things for Nicolas Cage, because, like I said before, it's been a while since we saw him in a big film. But from a professional critic aspect, the film scored at 58% on Rotten Tomatoes. Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Holt's performances were praised by the critics and fans, but many did not like the story. I thought the story should have been more closer to the inspiration to the old Universal monsters, and still making this film a weird redemption film dealing with mobsters and the cops. I didn't mind the modern day aura, but I guess it didn't feel too well with some. I also thought the climax of the film was a little corny, goofy, and another goofy. This film made $26 million at the box office compared to his budget of $65 million. That's probably coming to Nicolas Cage's salary. Now, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. If you don't know by now, this film is based on a segment called The Captain's Log in the famed book Dracula by Bram Stoker. Some fans of Dracula saw this film as the better film of the two. One for actually staying close to the source material and being more of a serious film with all the goofiness that you saw in Renfield. I, for one, thought this film was alright. It didn't piss me off. It was decent to a point. But something didn't connect to me about this film. I thought it was too slow in the beginning. It took a while for it to capture my attention for reasons I don't even know why myself. Now, the cinematography, the acting, the direction, CGI was all fine to me. The film didn't start cracking until Dracula arrived and started cracking heads around. But I didn't feel any sense of dread on this film. Maybe because the story, we all know the story doesn't end with this film. If you read the book, you know, this is just only a segment. Now, the creature's design for Dracula was well done. I think we've gotten used to having the fancy, spicy, humanoid, handsome or sexy female vampires lately. But in this film, we received an animalistic, a brutal beast of a vampire in Dracula. Now, I wasn't a big fan of the climax having Corey Hawkins' character as some sort of Van Helsing character. It didn't fit well for me. Alright. Maybe some could have saw this as a vehicle for a sequel involving Corey Hawkins' character hunting Dracula. I'm 50-50 on that. I don't know. I don't know. But similar to Renfield, The Last Voyage did not do well at the box office or with the critics. Well, some. I should say. At the box office, it made $21.7 million with $45 million budget with mixed reviews, and it scored a 49% lower than Renfield by Rotten Tomatoes and earning 52 out of 100 by Metacritic. Some critics loved it, called it a thick atmosphere of dread, its gleeful cruelty as quoted by Vulture.com, and others just plain out hate it, saying it falls back on chaos, cruelty, the director's movie story lacking the sense of dread required to justify the killings as well, as quoted by IndieWire. I have to say I agree with both sides. It was a smarter, more stable film with direction, but to me it just lacked dread, in my opinion. It's kind of hard to be surprised when you know the outcome of this film. Maybe that's it. Before we go on with the show, how about you guys like, share, subscribe to Franchise History TV, even comment down in the comments down below. I'm also on Instagram at franchise_TV and on Twitter at TV_franchise. I also have two other channels if you guys are interested: Lone Wolf Adventure TV and Franchise 2 Sports. So yeah, subscribe to those 3 channels. And also like, share, subscribe on all 3 of them. I say subscribe 3 times. I'm done. Bye.
I can take it back. I am enough. And I have enough. And I am...
Now, if you ask me to pick a film out of these 2 to watch for a second time, because I only seen them once, I would probably select Renfield by a very close margin. Both films, honest to God, had a hard time impressing me. Now, in the last 20 years, we had plenty of Dracula films that were big budget films, live action. For example, Van Helsing, Blade Trinity, Dracula Untold, The Invitation. I know there's been smaller live action projects out there that star Dracula, but I haven't seen all of those, also as well as TV. But for fun, this is just for fun in my humble opinion, I'll probably rank from worst to best: The Invitation, Blade Trinity, Renfield, Van Helsing, maybe The Last Voyage to Demeter, and Dracula Untold. I know some weren't big fans of the direction of Dracula Untold, but I still hold Luke Evans' Dracula to high standards. I don't really know why. I just really enjoy that movie. This is an enjoyable movie. It really is. Same with Van Helsing. Honest to God's truth, it is. I'm not even gonna lie. But I wish Universal could have expanded on Dracula Untold, but that's a different story for a different video. I will say this: I'd rather watch Renfield and The Last Voyage before I see that goofball Invitation again and that dreadful BBC Dracula show that was released years ago. To conclude, I don't really hate both of these films. I liked some things that I saw in both films, and both films that I saw stuff I didn't like. Both of these films are just mid-level to me. They could have been way better. The thing about comedies, especially with Renfield, it's a comedy. But then again, it's a comedy action film that, towards the end of the film, it just, towards the end. I was just gonna say that. The climax, And I would say it's The Last Demeter is right behind it, but that was a better climax. But it just, both climaxes just went cliche to me, but that's just how movies are, I guess. But I forgot to mention about the box office returns for The Last Voyage right quick. We know there was a low turnout for The Last Voyage of Demeter when it comes to the box office. But let's say this: the promotion for that film was terrible. I think I've only seen a few commercials on it, but that doesn't change the fact that the movie could have been better. Last Voyage could have been better. But those are my thoughts on both films. I know some will like what I said about The Last Voyage of the Demeter, but it is what it is. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and share the video, and make sure you hit the notification bell for more videos in the future.